Embers point, I guess it relates to some extent, is it Piers?
Yeah.
To what Piers was saying. I discovered this thing called Facebook during the course of the and I saw someone say the other day that for the price of the Tusk candidates standing and losing our deposits, i.e. around thick end of 60 grand, you could have paid 3 full-time, however we want to describe them, community organisers, political campaigners. And for my money, that would have been a far better use of 64 grand than what it was used for. But I think also to Wimbar's point, I don't see standing in elections and campaigning between them as either ors. I think we can walk and chew gum. And to that extent, certainly from the campaign, but I don't think this is a great political insight, the issues that came up again and again were housing and the NHS. And certainly in Tower Hamlets, we are going to start on Sunday, in fact, talking particularly about housing and the issues around what gets called gentrification, slightly catch-all term, but I think people know what I mean by that, and the fundamental issues around the extent to which working class communities are going to be able to live in the city of London and other cities. And that is a job that we have to get to immediately. We can't afford to wait to the next electoral cycle to do it. And likewise, obviously, the NHS. We have to engage with the sometimes slightly weird, I think, campaigns that are trying to do stuff on the NHS and really still not punching our weight on that question, which undoubtedly is a massive importance to people. Slightly going back into a sort of town-centric position. But what I want to argue actually is that Rabina Khan's campaign has a resonance and importance beyond Tower Hamlets, because it has the potential to stick one on the nose of New Labour. Now I'm not for a second saying, as I never did about Lutfi Rahman, that Rabina and what she's standing for are perfect. They're not. There are false criticisms to be made, but I think it's absolutely imperative that we, in this room and elsewhere, people who align themselves with however we're defining the left, recognise the significance of this particular electoral campaign and do everything that we can to ensure that Rabina wins it. And not unrelated to which, so this is slightly random now, but I think one of the things that went slightly unnoticed in Tower Hamlets on Thursday was that having literally not campaigned, I didn't see them at any of the hustings, I didn't see them on the street. They might have delivered a leaflet or two, but that was it. UKIP came fourth, I think, with a vote of around 6,000, I believe, from memory. So significantly higher, not only than myself, but the Liberals and the Greens. So that sort of latent reactionary vote, is something that we have to challenge, and I think, to some extent, Rabina winning would be a contribution, although not a solution to that. Obviously, again, a big question: where do we go from here in terms of the left? Again, I sort of agree with Piers. I don't want to get into a sort of council of despair around this, but we do have to be realistic. Not the least of the follies of the position that was being taken by some comrades last night was this idea that we, Tusk, or whoever associated with Tusk, should write to Rabina Khan with a set of demands and ask her, where she stood on these issues. Well, I don't mind. You send a letter, and it doesn't only the cost of a stamp, is it? What no one seems to recognise is that we do not have the political capital to be able to make those kinds of demands at the moment. And the same applies in relation to any discussion with the Greens. That's something that I've been trying to do locally. But you can understand them saying, "Where are you? What do you? Why would we? What benefit would that be to us, the Green Party?" I don't think that's a line that we should cap off entirely. But we clearly have to up our game. And I guess what George is saying is what I would say. Really, we have to decide pretty quickly whether we're serious about this. And one of the things that was said to me during the campaign by one of the Town's first councillors, who really was very helpful and supportive of what we were doing, he said that what I had done, I personalise it exactly, but for various reasons, I guess I did do this, was to move outside of your comfort zone. You cannot carry on being in a room with people who basically agree with you. You have to be prepared to have discussions with people who may not. And you know, there is that old cliche, you open the door, the dust comes in. Well, that's true, but you know, until or unless we're prepared to step outside the comfort zone of the left, then I don't think we are going to make progress. I think we have to focus our campaigns. I mean, it is absurd. I didn't even think we should have stood two candidates into hammers. You know, I think we could certainly have got a better vote in either, and undoubtedly in Bethnal Green and Bow, had we concentrated all our resources and activism on the one constituency. But you know, at a deeper level, you know, I also worry that we're sort of using the language of the 20th century to try and fight a political battle in the 21st. And we have to think about this. I'm not saying we can't talk about Marxism and Trotsky and all that stuff. You know, I'm not binning the history. But we have to recognise that a lot of young people do not identify with it in any way. And so we have to think about how we express these ideas, and use of social media is obviously a part of that, but it's not sufficient. And I think, again, I agree with what Piers said, you know, delivering 30,000 leaflets is not a bad thing, but it's not going to generate a proportionate amount of political support. Having conversations with people face to face, having meetings which may not be brilliantly attended in and of themselves, but potentially create a ripple effect is important. And so just to finish, I mean, Liam has mentioned in a previous meeting, unfortunately has linked my name to this, which is not something I'm particularly happy about, but that next year there is the Mayor of London election coming up, which is a proportional representation election. And we have to think now seriously, and what others have said is right. You know, there were various reasons why my particular campaign didn't have a very long lead in, and I won't bore you with the details, but they weren't bad reasons actually. But if we're serious about that election, we have to start planning it now and thinking about it now. And just finally, I mean, as I've said, I mean, I do find the Left Unity badge quite appealing in some ways, and I think others would too. But if I can be a little bit vulgar in my final comment, you know, I think Left Unity has to shit or get off the pot, basically. You know, I think there's been too much prevarication, too much focus on process. I understand some of the reasons for that, but we need to move on.
Right, thanks.